Melbourne are back at it again. Port at the G. Oof, it looks ominous, but there's still pride and points to play for and to set ourselves up for season 2025. Welcome to the official, unofficial podcast of the Melbourne Demons, the DeeBrief. I'm your host, Adrian Horton, and I'm joined by Wes Fisher from NTWRK. It's Sponsors Night. Wes, that's where we're at. We're playing for next year, mate.
2025.
It's disappointing.
Look, it's not where we thought we'd be at the start of the year, I know that much. So
No, but mate, it's great to have you in, and of course, this show wouldn't be alive. We wouldn't be in the presence of Derek, our producer from Castaway Studios, without the support of businesses like yours. But it's been a little bit of a deflating year, hasn't it? How have you seen it?
Oh, look, I think we should look off the field. Just don't worry about what's happening on the field kind of thing. You guys catch on that, week to week kind of thing. If you look at the start of the week, you got the issues with obviously Brayshaw kind of going out early kind of thing. You've got off-field issues running into the season.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you look at that all that and the amount of media. I don't like media attention at that time of year. You like everything being quiet at that time of year if you can.
Yeah.
And I think we just kind of had a bit too much media attention there. But
we did. Kane doesn't go away either. Kane just puts his foot in it every single week.
He does, yeah. But Clary, look, the expensive man. A lot being written about him at the moment, and it would be nice if he was kind of filled a bit of that void a little bit more than what we probably got out of him late in the season. But anyway, 2025.
2025. Now, your family connection to the Melbourne Football Club. So I'll just preface this. You had no hope in the world of going for any other football club.
You've nailed this, actually. Like, growing up, I didn't even know there was another team available kind of thing. Like, it just wasn't, like, you know what I mean? Like, the stuff gets jammed into you. We joke about it, but it literally was. Like, you go back to old photos and so forth, and I was having a look the other day.
Yeah.
And the Melbourne stuff's just everywhere. And I remember sitting there with my grandfather kind of thing and talking about the D's and talking about playing, and then his brother, he played for the D's and won a premiership in 39. And the worst thing was I had to actually do some research. I didn't realise, but he actually, how's this? He didn't play in that. So that was a three-peat. That was the start of a three-peat for the D's. 39-40. It was a 39-40-41.
Yeah.
Didn't play in the next two grand finals because he was injured himself in the semis.
Oh, so hang on, the semi of both years?
40-41. Didn't play.
Okay.
But theoretically would have played. So, yeah.
So what was a chance to win 5?
Nah, so we won 39,
Yep.
40, and then 41.
Yep.
And he played the 39.
Got it.
Was injured injured in the semi both years for the 40 and the 41.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So imagine that. That's a rough way. If you want to talk about history, talk about those stories and how they play out today. That's a rough way to go. But
we were winning finals back then too,
and we were winning finals, a three-peat. And I think we won another one. Didn't we? We won one.
Well, me and the boys laughed in our thread. All the boys on the Thursday show, so Marker and Adzi and Nuggets in there, and we were talking about the three-peat of this year of straight sets, but now we can't do it.
No,
annoyingly, because we're not even going to be there. But the family connection, you've an uncle as well, great uncle.
Got a great uncle, yeah, uncle, and then my grandfather, and then my old man. I never heard much, but he's a big unit as well, like me, but never played much footy. I never really played a lot of footy. I played a little bit kind of growing up. Went to DeeBrief and played a little bit, but outside of that, not a lot. So it's kind of fallen away. But my youngest one, he's 10 years old and he's an absolute unit of a boy. He's keen to kind of come through. So I
was going to say, how tall are you? Because when you walked into the studio, I was like, g'day, big fella. 6'5"?
I'm 6'5", yeah, and fill out every inch of that as well, as well. So good full forward size.
Well, I mean, we're looking for key forwards.
Yeah, look, a couple of years.
Yeah.
Could have someone for you. He's not the quickest moving one, but he's a big unit though.
If we could wind back the clock with yourself, did you have a crack?
Look, I probably liked the old beers in the hand a little bit too much, if that makes sense. To probably give it a go. I kind of look back and I go, geez, actually, I probably could have if I'd actually put my mind to it a little bit more. But,
so there was talent there.
I was all right with the basketball, but never really kind of applied myself with football. So
I mean, you sound like Scotty, if I'm being frank.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah, there's a lot of... You've absolutely nailed it. There's a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda about Scotty. I do like to ridicule him a bit when he was out at an infamous nightclub. The name escapes me. All the footballers used to go there. I think it was CQ. Or CQ, maybe the name. I think it was, Derek. Oh, you wouldn't have gone to places like that.
Oh,
the tunnel.
tunnel.
I was more thinking revolver for someone like you, Derek. But he went out to this nightclub and he was with a few of his AFL mates, and I'll never let him live it down. He sent me a text saying I should have played. And I didn't screenshot it because it was many moons ago, but you said it, Scotty. What are your favourite memories as a supporter? I want to get upbeat because it's been a little bit of doom and gloom last few weeks, and last week was a shocking loss, and I feel like Melbourne supporters are going through the motions at the moment. I certainly am a little bit myself. I thought I was a bit downtrodden on the review show, but we're all Melbourne supporters. We're all diehards. We're not going anywhere. So let's keep this upbeat and talk about what are some of your favourite memories as a supporter.
Oh, look, 21 grand final obviously goes down as probably my recent history goes down as being pretty big.
Yeah.
Sitting, during COVID, during lockdowns kind of thing, I had tickets and had airfares to get over there, and just one final piece was how do I get entry kind of thing.
Yeah.
Everything else was sorted out, probably like a lot of other Melbourne supporters. But watching that on the couch with the kids, I think I had the old man around there as well. I think we've broken some COVID rules kind of thing. He lived pretty locally kind of thing, watching it, and watching that was just unreal. You know, and it was probably just what we needed at that time. It's been a combination of many years and kind of small chess moves kind of thing for probably 10, 12 years at that stage since Ruse was in there, and seeing that kind of come off was just great, and sharing that with the kids as well was just fantastic. So
Yeah.
that really goes down with it. Other big memories. Look, I had to go back a little bit. Not to say that I've had bad ones. Trying to think about some other other occasions.
Swooper days, Northey, like Danaher.
Yeah, I'm going back like 90s kind of thing. Like that was probably some of my big memories kind of thing, was like, watching like Gary Lyons, Schwartz, Anita kind of thing, like those guys, like mid 90s, early 90s kind of thing, watching those guys and watching those guys playing was just unreal. I grew up out near Waverley, the old Waverley Park kind of thing, and I remember going out there with the old man and sitting on the old concrete steps there kind of thing, and when they literally say freezing your ass off, like that concrete out there is, I don't know, it's another level of cold out there. But it's those kinds of memories that you kind of go back to, and I couldn't even tell you who was playing on the field at the day. Like, it would have been the D's.
Yes.
But I couldn't have even told you, like anything else had happened kind of thing. But, kind of remember going out there and, just remember how cold it was there, and, it was fairly close to home, and going out there with him. So
some good elimination finals wins there as well.
Yeah. Oh, look, I couldn't tell you. Like I said, I literally probably is. Yeah, 100%.
Collingwood was one off the top of my head. I think it might have been 91 or 88. Might have got this wrong, but there was a good run there. Obviously in 87, making the finals after a 23-year drought.
Yeah, long drought.
I don't know how old you were in 87, but were you at Whitten Oval in the last round?
No. I was
too young.
I was 83 kids. I was about 4, but
too young.
I was also not in Melbourne at that stage, so I was at interstate then. So, but I do remember kind of going to Waverley Park and just remember how cold it was there.
Yeah.
And then probably the big one for me is around probably my family kind of thing, like going there with my grandparents and my aunties and uncles and cousins and going to the G. And I know you're pretty family orientated as well, and going there and just the whole family's there. Everyone's in the MCC, there's probably 30 odd of you kind of thing, kind of catching up for a drink and going out for lunch and kind of watching the game, and everyone's kind of doing their own thing, just kind of running around and kind of coming back and watching the game. Like that's for me is what. Like, the footy's great. I love the footy, don't get me wrong, but, like, for me, it's really about, like, taking, like, the community piece, family piece for me has really been that kind of massive part for me. So.
You're absolutely spot on. That's the exact same reason why I love it. I think that's one of the main reasons why everyone loves it. It's easy to get bogged down in outcome and performance, and certainly this is what this show's about, trying to dissect it and make logic of it all, even though we're not tactical experts by any means, and I like to reinforce that, but it's also just trying to convey the emotion around going to the games, the vibe at the games. There's nothing more I love than going to the MCG.
Oh, it's fantastic.
To watch the Melbourne Football Club.
But you say it's not about the tactics, but I think the fact that you've got enough passion and love for it that you want to have a conversation with either a complete stranger, a family member, or your mates kind of thing about that. Like, I think that just kind of conveys how ingrained it is into you kind of thing as well. Like, I love it. Do you know what I mean? I'll breathe it. It's part of everything I look at. And I think that, for me, that, I'm not a die-hard statistician, or I couldn't tell you what happened probably back in the 80s, and I might be able to kind of recall some bits and pieces. But for me, it's really just that, how do you feel? What happened? I can remember the 2000 loss against Essendon. We were just talking about Essendon obviously before jumping on, but you kind of remember those kind of key milestones there, and who you were with, and how that made them feel, kind of thing. And yeah, they're the big kind of pieces about it. So,
well, hopefully we can write a few successful chapters in the next few years, and that's what I want to speak about next, because this year has been problematic, to say the least. I think the way you touched on it off the top was perfect. It all just went awry so quickly in the off-season. The Clayton Oliver story was the one that we just didn't want to surround the club. Gus was the absolute nail in the coffin. Like that,
tough.
That was tough, because I think when we looked back on it, we're like, fucking hell. We've lost a key leader, we've lost a classy footballer, we've lost a multifaceted footballer as well that can play in different positions, is happy to be called upon in any situation by the coach.
Do whatever's needed.
Exactly. Do whatever's needed. So I think in hindsight, when you look back at it and you think about just Gus, it was probably going to be a bridge too far for us this season. And then all the other things that have happened, Track's injury, Lever going down the wrong time. There's a myriad of problems from an injury perspective that we've had to deal with. That's just the reality. They're not excuses, they're facts.
Yep.
This is what happened. If you did a similar thing with other teams, if you took one of the best key interceptors from a different team, Rolls-Royce midfielder from a different team, the best utility, one of the best leaders at a different team, and suddenly their picture looks murky as well. So it's been hard to get through this season and remain optimistic. However, I've said it in recent weeks, I still think there are so many shoots of promise that we've seen, particularly with these younger kids this year. It's given us an opportunity, because the season hasn't gone the way we would have liked it to blood some kids, which I like. And once and for all, we've actually done it, because we didn't do it in 22, and we probably should have, because we had a lot of players playing good footy at Casey.
Yep.
23, you could argue a similar thing, although I think we're so much closer to winning that flag. We're a Melksham Petty injury away from maybe potentially doing it. So what is keeping you upbeat and optimistic for next year?
I think we've probably lost, 3 in the last, 6, 8, 10 weeks. We've lost, 3 in our top 5 players from the start of the season. Yep. So Oliver kind of being 50-50 for most of the season kind of thing. Brayshaw going down, Track going out, and then Gorney obviously.
And Lever for that 5-6 week period.
For a part of it as well. So It's been, look at the top 5 guys kind of thing in our team. Arguably, we've had some challenges there. But as part of that going into, and it's got to be, you got to look at the kids kind of thing. Like, you got to look at Windsor. Like, from the first game you played, that kid was just speed. I remember him coming down the wing kind of thing, down the MCC wing kind of thing. And I think I was sitting on front level 4 there. I was like, this kid's quick, real quick. I'm not up close to this kind of thing, but up top here, he's running off guys easy. Yeah. And that was just exciting to watch, watching Van Ruin kind of thing, kind of have a bit of a, he's still only young, but just kind of come into himself a little bit more in terms of his body kind of thing, and start using that properly in the forward line there, and actually really looking quite strong there. It was fantastic. Seeing. Sorry, I'm going blank on a couple of other kids kind of thing, but just seeing some of these kids kind of come through.
Disco
was great.
Are you a big fan of Disco? Because I think supporters are still a little bit divided on him. I would say if we're going to look at it from a percentage point of view, maybe 70% of supporters are sold him, maybe 30% aren't. The biggest question with Disco, I've said this recently as well, my gut feel is his best football would be behind the ball as an interceptor. I still like what he's done as a forward, and I love the way he leads up and he competes and he's ferocious and he's never out of a contest. That's what I really like from him from an aerial point of view as a forward. I just don't know. Instinctively, I just feel like he's going to be a key intercept defender for us.
Yeah, look.
Do you agree or?
Look, I don't. Look, I come from a sporting background kind of thing. You don't tend to see big kids or big body kids kind of develop until probably early 20s, I reckon. In all honesty, if we're kind of looking at that, and if they're playing games kind of thing, where can you play? You need speed and kind of come off the back line. Play behind the ball a little bit more. And I think there's a lot to be said with kind of learning the trade from back there.
True.
But you give him 2 or 3, 4 pre-seasons, and now he's got some size on him. I mean, look at where Van Ruin was kind of thing. And I know everyone wanted him to, he's playing out of Casey and, booting a bucket load. Everyone wanted him in the team. But I reckon by holding him back, you've been able to get a couple of pre-seasons into him. He gets a bit of meat on him, and now we kind of put him forward. And now, you're not kind of killing your kid's confidence kind of thing straight up when he's not coming out and executing the way he's meant to be. So I suppose where I see that is let's blood him out in the back. Let's blood him out in the back kind of thing. That's fantastic. But then I think there's a huge opportunity to start moving those boys forward a little bit more, hopefully, in future years once they kind of get a bit of size on them. And I suppose they're learning off kind of key forwards as well. They can go and play on some half decent key forwards and actually understand that as well. So
it's a good point. I'm still torn. I'm still torn on exactly where Disco's going to play his footy. The one thing he definitely has, which is impressive, and it's been a knock on our team almost all season, is he's a dead-eye dick.
It's great.
He kicks them straight.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that when you weigh it up, pros and cons, whether he goes behind or he stays forward, he can bin goals. That boy knows where they are. And he's got a big boot on him too.
He's got a great boot on him as well. Disco Turner's good kind of thing, but like you look at Rivers started in the back line, now he's back in the midfield, but opportunity's got to present. Kind of thing, but he's just ready for it. He's a bigger body now. He's come through, and I don't think if you're kind of kicking guys out of the midfield at the moment, he's a lock. Kind of thing. No one's changing that up. So
he'd be the story of the season, I reckon. Trent.
Yeah, I reckon. Look, he's definitely been the bloke who's kind of what's the word for kind of bled the hardest. I'd say he's like he's become like the filling the Brayshaw piece kind of thing. He's become that utility knife essentially. I'll play in the back line. I'll come through the middle. Like, where do you need me kind of thing. I'll play down the wing if you need me. Like where do you want me essentially? And he'll come through and play that position. And I think without kind of getting ahead of ourselves, like you need more guys that aren't too kind of precious about where they're playing necessarily kind of thing. And
true. Well,
which is hard as well, but
Trent's in the midfield.
He's great.
Yeah, and the flexibility of putting Trent to the back line when we need to, situational, we can do it. But it begs the other question that everyone's talking about at the moment: will Judd McPhee see a bit of midfield time in these last 3 games? I don't think we'll see it, but surely Goody and the coaching staff have to have a think about it in the off-season. I think we've got enough half-backers. I think if we go out and get Dan Houston, I'm really interested about what position does he play? Does he play as that modern quarterback type player that we see a lot of now? There's a lot of players who will just sit behind the ball. They're the handball receive kings because of the stand rule. We've seen a lot of teams like Errol Goulden's really good at coming around the back. Nick Blakey is. Nick Dacos is exceptional in that role.
Yep, reads well.
Dan Houston's one of the best kicks in the AFL period. I think he's the second best kick going inside 50, which is something that we've obviously lacked over the journey, probably forever.
Last 3 or 4 years,
with Simon. Probably forever.
Yep.
Under Simon Goodwin. So does Dan Houston slot in at that half-back role, play the quarterback role that I spoke about? And does that potentially free up a Judd McPhee to go into the midfield? Because I think he's like Harry Sheasel. I think he's that type of player. I really see a lot of Sheasel and McPhee. I see a lot of similarities. So my big hope is that Goody, surely he's thinking about it and understands that there's a capability there for him to move into the midfield. He's spoken about it fleetingly, but I don't know if he truly believes in it. I'd love to see it.
I think we've got nothing to lose. Then you've got to you just got to roll the dice there, kind of thing. But Goody's not one as well. Like when Pickett was kind of rolling through the middle there, he's kind of presenting for 6, 7 kind of times, kind of thing in a match. Wasn't a track kind of presenting full time there.
Yeah.
And you look at it from McVee's point of view, like why not? Like throw him in there. I've got nothing to lose. Like. Do you know what I mean? Like at the moment, if you're sitting on a board kind of thing with your market, you're looking at Port Adelaide this week, and it's like, that's likely going to be a loss kind of thing. Like in terms of where the season's sitting at, that in terms of pencil marks that are kind of coming down, that you're looking at that, you're going, look, what have we got to lose? You know what I mean? Like, who's injured at the moment? I'm surprised we haven't kind of heard that more guys are going for surgery, to tell you the truth, from our team kind of thing.
It's weird. That injury report was strange because they almost. The way they framed it, it was like, we're hoping to get this bloke back in the last round. Like, even when the way they spoke about Caleb Windsor, I was like, mate, his season's done. Even the way they spoke about Stephen May. Yeah. And they made his injury a to be confirmed when he comes back. Don't fucking play them.
Why? Like that's just what I don't understand. Like, I don't think the spectators, like the spectators, want to win against Collingwood. If you look at the rules, it's like Collingwood, and then we don't care about anything else really. Kind of
Just
thing.
win that game.
Win that game, but but by the same stretch, I'm like, I'd rather give May three more weeks kind of thing to recover kind of thing, and give him 3 more weeks in pre-season kind of after his surgery. I'd rather give wins at that.
I think internally they might believe there's still a chance, and there's two schools of thought here.
There's two layers of thought in that.
Well,
like chance to make finals, and then chance to do anything else inside finals.
You're spot on. But the chance of winning getting to finals, we've got to win 3 games, probably by an average winning margin of 10 goals in each game, to make up percentage, to even give ourselves a chance, and then it probably and might not even be enough anyway. So I think that I honestly believe part of me believes that the coaching staff and the football club still think they're a chance, because mathematically you are. But let's get real. We're coming up against a red hot Port Adelaide.
They are on fire.
On fire, and their midfield's enormous.
And they're up and running too. Like they'll be running on.
Yeah.
They are absolutely running around at the moment after last week as well. So.
It's a good test. I think we need to salvage a bit of pride, a bit of respect. Last week, for me, was virtually a 80, 90, 100-point demolition. They kicked 15-20, for God's sake. If they'd straightened up, especially in that first half, we were staring down the barrel of another Fremantle day in Alice Springs.
50 absolutely was a best case scenario from where we were. It should have been 80, and if they kicked a little bit straighter, it was triple digits. Easy.
Yeah, exactly. Easy. So I think, great, okay, internally if they're going, let's shake it up, let's try and kill someone's season, that's awesome. You're at the point now, you look at Port Adelaide, and I watched that game pretty closely. They're fit, they're healthy, they had an unchanged lineup going into the Sydney game. I don't think they had any injury issues out of that game as well. They're in a really good spot, and they've had a really good 6 weeks. So I think you're almost looking at it, it feels like I'm channeling a bit of like 2009 or 2010 vibes here. I take a 3, 4, 5 goal loss if we show absolute endeavour, heart, and you know that they've given their all. Last week, pathetic for me. There were so many broken tackles in that first quarter. I honestly reckon they were just like, it was a bridge too far. We can't be bothered. You're going to want to hope that at least over the course of the next 3 games, from an effort and application point of view, we see that. Because I think as supporters, that's all we expect. We know we're not in a position to go and win it, but you're still in a position to go and salvage something that gives us hope going into 2025. I've seen enough. Like, I'm still hopeful about 2025, but there are a lot of other supporters that want to see a little bit before the season's out. So they owe that to us, I reckon.
I think we talk about styles of play. We've really gone away from, I suppose, what we had established ourselves from, even in 2019, 2020, 2021, even the last couple of years, we've really kind of almost gone away from that kind of, when we're up and running, our physical presence around the ball, is noticeable. Our pressure in the back line is noticeable. And, when you're seeing guys, Fritter and Van Ruin, who are kind of just trotting off the ball kind of thing, oh no, I can't impact that play there. Yeah. Straight away where we are in that match. You can kind of see them kind of rolling off the ball there and go, no, it's too hard. Yeah, that's done kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you look at like where we were, and I say, back in those kind of formative years around that, like, we were pressuring that ball. Like everyone was running to like I don't think they realise how impactful they can be by being 3 metres off the ball. Like even putting half an edge of doubt in those guys' minds with the ball is having an impact down the line.
Yep.
And that's what we rely on. We rely on just that half an inch of doubt. We can apply that. We actually start looking good. Ball comes to ground. It's on the wing. That's where the turnover comes in. That's where we get that rebound. And it's just I feel like we've really gone away from that over the last. I don't feel like we've seen that a lot this season. It's probably the best way to kind of surmise it. And I suppose that's what supporters are really looking for. Like, how do we bring that back? That pressure. Are we going to come back and kick 20 goals in a game? Look, probably not. But defensively, can we grind it down to a 50, 60-point game, 70-point game? Let's grind it. Let's show something there. And I think that's what we can kind of stand for in the last 3 games of the season, is really the kind of that defensive intensity a little bit more. So
I think you're spot on. It opens up the biggest issue that we need to work on next year, and it's how do we score? because we haven't been able to kick big enough scores this year. And the method's not there. And we've tried to be a better turnover team earlier in the season. Then we needed to revert back to what we know, the kick down the line, make it a bit of a scrap, as you speak about. So I think as a coaching staff, they really need to get to work on how we can become a little bit more polished and cleaner forward of centre. It's hard to watch us sometimes when it comes to that. There are some shoots of promise with that. Like, it's easy to say the West Coast game at the G when Melksham came back in, and we definitely looked a little bit more polished, but you look at the calibre of opposition. The Essendon game as well, I like the way that we're slingshotting. We hadn't seen a lot of that. Maybe the conditions played a part in that.
Conditions definitely played a part in that, I'd say, yeah.
There are other examples of games throughout the season where I've been impressed with the ball movement. The Port Adelaide game earlier in the year, it may have been round 3 or 4, was another good one. We just haven't seen it enough. If we're going to be a good team, then I think we need to adopt what's happening with the Bulldogs, Brisbane, Freo, the Giants. They play controlled footy at times when they need to. They take the sting out of the game and they move and shift your defence around. And we saw that with Freo against us up in Alice Springs. But then when they need to pull the trigger and go, either through handball or piercing kicks into the corridor that break a zone, we need to become a better version. We need to try and aspire to become that. Because teams like Carlton, who I think are exactly the same blueprint as us from 2021,
Yep.
I don't think that brand will win grand finals anymore. I think at the time, we just suffocated teams. I don't think that brand will stand up, and I don't believe in Carlton's method anymore, and I don't think they're actually a premiership chance.
I agree. Yeah, I just don't think you can kind of apply that overwhelming pressure for 100% of the game kind of thing anymore.
No.
It's like, what are you kind of falling back onto behind that? Yes, we can run that in waves, but what are we falling back onto?
That's the biggest challenge for our football club.
But I don't think there's no second part of the method. The method is like, this is plan A, and it doesn't really feel like there's something that we kind of fall back onto to look at other ways. It's going to be interesting on Saturday night, actually, because we know that Port are going to put a lot of work into Gawn. Like, you look at every single match they come down to.
I hope he doesn't play. Teams are coming out shortly.
Oh, I just don't.
Don't play him.
Oh, just there's no. Yeah. Anyway, he's going to play. Like, think about it. Like, I don't know. Like, they've got. Yeah. Anyway.
What? Because Goody came out and said our other ruck options were dreadful in a presser and unprompted.
I don't understand why you don't play him. Like, who's a kid out of Brisbane kind of thing? I don't understand why you don't give that kid a play. Like, I know he hasn't been that great, but you got nothing to lose. Like, you're only there with no one. Like, just name him. Play him. Like, you got. Anyway, Port Adelaide are going to put a lot of work into Gawn this weekend, and it's going to be really interesting to see what our plan B is, because plan A's done for us this weekend. So what's behind that? And it'll be interesting to see what Goody puts up this weekend, actually, to kind of get around that. So
it will be very interesting. Let's talk about your business.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Network. So your business journey, starting up Network, where did it all start? Let's start there.
Oh, started back in 2017. Got to a point where my current employer, I was just getting to a bit to where just wanted a bit more flexibility in terms of work, and went through some changes personally, and needed a bit more flexibility with work, and kind of started moving more in, I suppose, that contract space. We started Network and with a couple of clients, and that kind of steamrolled, kind of built it back up, and that kind of moved on to having a couple of guys join the team full time, and a couple of extra casuals, and it kind of just that nice old story of just kind of been building organically over the last 7 years, really. So. And
what was the need? Why Network? Why at the time? What did you think that you could apply to the market that you work in? If you can boil it down in the layman's terms for all the people out there.
For us, it was really kind of aligning data, so customer data for businesses, which there's a plethora of, marketing technology, which is for a lot of people unknown. So if you look at the marketing technology landscape, it's just dotted with brands doing a multitude of pieces. And then how do we kind of bring that together for businesses' customers? And how do we kind of improve experiences? Because what we kind of worked out is when we create great experiences for customers, amazingly, they do things that we want them to do. They buy things, they engage with brands, they come back and they look and they create wish lists and they shop and do all these kind of nice things that we need as from an e-commerce and brand functionality, which is fantastic. But then as we kind of started maturing in that space a little bit more, we started really getting to that and started really diving into creating these journeys that customers are on. So after they purchase something, what do they do next? What are they coming back for? How long are they going to be out of market for? We started looking at, for one of our clients is in the cosmetic space, we started looking at what we call replenishment pieces as an example of this kind of thing. So if you think about, skincare, and that might have 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, we could start seeing when customers were coming back to websites to see how long are they spending away from us? Well, now they're back in market 28 days later and they're buying on 34 days. And now we know we can start kind of influencing this kind of behaviour.
Yep.
So it was really kind of going back to the data, getting really smart around data, and then applying that and automating that using technology to create these great experiences for customers, really personalised experiences for customers. And we've been able to do that across automotive, cosmetics, retail. We've done it across even, from going into manufacturing and conveyancing spaces, believe it or not. So really what the team are the team love a challenge, and they take great pride in kind of going, how on earth are we going to unpack this? As a new customer coming on board, how do we kind of approach this? But each new customer we bring on board with Network, we've always been able to kind of find a way to improve that experience, engage more with their customers, but better still provide fantastic outcomes for for businesses and our partners in that space, which has been great.
Said that very well. For the Melbourne supporters listening, who could be interested in your business? What's your target market?
Oh, mate, look, it's really funny who we talk to inside a business. If we look at the businesses we do the best work for, we typically work with, kind of working with marketing guys, digital marketing, chief customer officers, customers. We've done work into the media space as well, a little bit in terms of how we kind of manage media and that journey that kind of comes back in terms of great media's working, how we're measuring it, what are we doing with them next. But we've also done a lot of work with, kind of sales managers and heads of sales kind of thing, because at the end of the day it's really great the marketing guys are doing one thing, but the sales guys are the guys who are on the hook for the results every single month. So sometimes those inquiries are really starting with those guys going, we're sitting on all this data, all of these customers, how do we increase share of wallet, how do we increase revenue out of our existing client base? Because to acquire new customers these days is really expensive. If you take into consideration media costs and other bits and pieces, to acquire new customers these days, expensive. But you go back to the database of customers and you go, this is great. How do we just unlock what's already in there? And I think that's the power of Network. In terms of what we do, we've really got some incredibly smart people who can kind of go through that, some data analysts who go through that data, who de-silo that data as well, that kind of sits around multiple places inside a business, and then start building these journeys. And testing those journeys and iterating on those journeys to drive real business outcomes that move the needle for businesses. Yep. And that's really positive. Yeah.
I love it. So you're building inferences from the data that you can then apply to a business to give them a better opportunity to get to their target customer.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And a lot of these things are things that a lot of businesses will look at this and will go, well, yeah, that's how our customers operate. It's like, yeah, but you look at this, you've got I'm just trying to think of a case at the moment where a lot of businesses we kind of talk to, they'll go, yeah, that's how we operate. And you'll go, you've got a sales team of 40 people doing that very manually at the moment, making cold calls or making kind of customer service calls or whatever else it might be. And you'll go to them, what if we could increase the opportunities for your sales team? Yeah. But you could talk to 100,000 customers simultaneously instead of them kind of going, who should I be calling through the 40 guys that I've got? We can start looking at behaviour that customers in terms of how they engage with the brand, whether it be an email, a website, a mobile app, whatever they're kind of engaging with, we can track that. And then we can kind of feed that data back to a sales team, for example, and go, these are your hottest prospects who are clicking, engaging with the brand at the moment. This is where we think you should start. And we've really found that in those traditional style businesses, we still have field sales teams, and there's a lot of them still out there, who aren't necessarily conducting all of their business online. There's a huge amount of opportunity in those businesses.
Yeah, so it's legacy sales techniques that are ingrained in these legacy old school businesses. It's slightly backward thinking. They haven't changed with the times.
We've got clients who still like they'll literally drop their sales team and they'll go, all right, I'm cold calling.
Yeah.
I need to increase route density out here. I'm cold calling out here kind of thing and going around businesses to kind of, drum up new business. And it's like, guys, like, if you just talk to us, there is a better way to go about this kind of thing. Like we can, in terms of how we approach it. But it's really just kind of understanding that, that there needs to be a want for change in that space as well. And sometimes that's, very cultural in those businesses. So, look, essentially senior leadership is what we're looking for. Anyone who kind of sits across sales, marketing, technology is kind of our kind of key people there. So
I love it. Very good elevator pitch. So if you're one of those Melbourne supporters, how do you get in touch?
Network, ntwrk.com.au. Just get in touch with us directly through the website, and one of the guys will get back to you. Alternatively, if you don't want to go through the website, you can find me on LinkedIn, Wes Fisher on LinkedIn. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Yeah, happy to have a chat.
And you'll get back to them ASAP because they're a Melbourne supporter, most likely.
You probably hear it in my voice. I love talking about this stuff, so I get a bit G'd up about it. I actually really enjoy it, so I'm happy to have a chat with anyone about it.
You're very passionate about it. That's great. Mate, we're going to have a little break. We'll have another frothy, and then we'll have a look at the team news, and we'll see if Big Maxi's playing. That's probably the biggest thing. So we'll be back in just a tick. Teams. Wes. You were right. Max is in. Max is not going anywhere, I reckon. They're going to play him till the end of the season, aren't they?
Mate, you feel like you're just flogging a horse there kind of thing. It's unfortunate kind of thing considering what he gives. You think you give him a bit more respect, but anyway.
Did you see his ankle? Did you see the photo of his ankle?
Mate, it's going to be strapped hard. And like I said, Port are going to put some work into him. So
protect him, for God's sake.
Who's going to protect? Like, look at that lineup. Who's protecting him? That's the challenging part. So.
Oh, who's protecting him? I don't know. So we'll go through the teams really quickly. Adam Tomlinson, Christian Salem, Marty Hoare, all in. Stephen May, Andy Monners Wakefield, that annoys me, and Blake Hawes are out. We'll run through it. We'll go from Tomo. I mean, Tomo's in. Part of me feels sorry for Tomo. We've seen Melbourne function really well as a defensive unit when it's Tomo, May and Lever. Obviously, with Stephen out, it makes sense to bring Tomo back in, and Port have been running Radigalia up forward. Charlie Dixon and Todd Marshall has come in for Mitch Georgiadis, who is out. So they're still an incredibly tall front half, so it makes sense to have Tomo in. Christian Salem, it's been a really disappointing year for him. We spoke about that earlier, Wes. Good to see him, but God, you'd hope for a better 2025. Injuries have curtailed him a bit in the last few years, but there's part of me that's starting to think is his best beyond him because he's 29. He's not getting any younger. Have we seen the best of Salem, or can he get his shit together and get back to the 2021 player that he was? And again, we thought midfield was his preferred position, but are we better off just putting him down at half-back? I'm a bit confused about Salem moving forward. So what do you think about that?
Look, I think from a supporter's point of view, you just want to see high expectations of Salem, and just, like you said, last 3 years we haven't seen much from him kind of thing. Injuries, yes, but I don't think he's really shown much glimpse. Safe spot, Salem, backline, kind of playing off half back there. Easy, smart. He's got a good head on him, obviously. Yep. And we just want him to see more kind of thing. That run and carry off the back line, back in the good days with him. Just don't seem to have as much of that with him, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, and it may have something to do with his body. So there's a bit of a watch on Salem in the off-season, I would have thought. Marty Hoare, I'm happy for Marty. I've watched a few VFL games this year where he's dominated. He's too good for that level, and it's obvious why we brought him back to the football club. He takes the piss down at VFL level, so it'll be good to see him again. I thought he was actually quite impressive early on in the season before he went out. Injury stopped him in these tracks, so good to get him back into the team. Stephen May, disappointing for him to have another rib injury. It's been a bit of a tough year for Stephen, although the middle patch of the season I thought he was in fine form. I thought he'd wound the clock back a bit. A few people saying he was going to wane this year, and I don't really think he did, to be honest. Andy Monners Wakefield's the one that I'm really disappointed about. I would have loved to see us continue to persist with him. I think he's strong in the contest. He's got a burst of speed. He runs in straight lines. Positionally, he's a little bit lost, but that's just the rigours of AFL footy, I would have thought. But I was just hoping Wes they'd persist with him. So you were a little bit disappointed?
Yeah, look, strong body too. You think, give him a bit more game time. Nothing to lose really at this stage of the season. So would have liked to have seen him play as well. But yeah,
disappointing.
Anyway, very disappointed.
And Blake Hawes comes back in for the one game after being out for quite some time. Had his colours lowered by a very good Bulldogs forward line. He wasn't great, but there were many passengers on the night. You feel sorry for him a little bit because he's probably thinking, okay, I've got an opportunity here over the last months to maybe push my case for next season. The one thing I'll say about Blake Howes is I've seen enough. I've seen enough to suggest that he should and could have a regular spot in the 23 moving forward. There's also part of me that thinks he's a good chance of potentially morphing into a winger, maybe when Ed Langdon rides off into the sunset, which is very apt because he loves his riding. But it's been great to see him, just as a side note, commit to the club. There was a bit of chatter that Ed Langdon was going to go down to Geelong, I believe, Wes. And,
where all good Melbourne players go.
Yeah, yeah. But he signed on, so I'm really excited about that one. Just on Port Adelaide, watching them last week, they were like the Harlem Globetrotters. They were freaking unbelievable. They're so classy in that midfield. They are scary at clearance. Now, it's the one thing that stuck out to me. Our clearance game this year has been woeful, abysmal, an absolute joke. I said it to a few boys earlier this week, and I don't want to be too harsh, but Andrew McQualter has probably failed in his first season as a senior assistant who takes charge of the midfield. And the reason being, I have no doubt that you're measured on the key metric of how you go at clearance, and it's been awful. So this game scares me because having watched the way that Port Adelaide waltzed out of midfield against Sydney, not only that, the way that they apply pressure on the ball carrier is scary. They've got a lot of explosive players in there. Jason Horne-Francis is one of my favourite players to watch. Like, honestly, he is as good as it gets. Connor Rosey, Ollie Wines, Zach Butters, even Willem Drew, like all these blokes that are going to run through there, for fuck's sake, we need to be better at clearance. Because if we're not better at clearance on the weekend, we could be looking at another shellacking, and that is a scary proposition.
Look, I think they've showed you what they're capable of when you don't turn up. And having that Sydney outfit, obviously playing at home, kind of coming to Adelaide there, they absolutely turned the screws to them and did a number and didn't release really for at least the entire first half. I think I turned it off after that. Didn't really see much of the second half, but that entire first half they were just on.
Yeah,
like everything was kind of coming together for them, and that Sydney outfit just looked lost. So if we show up the same way the same way we showed up to the Doggies last weekend, yeah, I don't think Port Adelaide are going to miss or are going to have an issue in front of goal. I don't think we get 2 weeks in a row like that. It'll be 100 points plus if we show up the same way. So yeah, it's going to be a big job for the midfield this week, I think. So
massive job
in terms of slowing that down. So
I think the other thing as well is just the mentality of the Port Adelaide group. They're going to the MCG. So they're a team historically have been called frauds. They're a team that a lot of people still don't believe in. They believe that they're just home and away specialists, a little bit like us in 22 and 23 when you look back. But they've been doing this for a long, long time where they have these incredible home and away seasons under Ken Hinkley. And then when it gets to the crunch time of September, they fall in a heap. I have no doubt if you're the Port Adelaide Football Club, you're probably setting yourself for this game at the MCG where finals are won. And that's the other part that scares me about playing them. Are they actual frauds? We don't know, because the only litmus test that you can ever judge Port Adelaide on is what happens in the next few weeks when they're playing finals footy. But that little part of me, the MCG factor and thinking about Port Adelaide actually scares me a little bit, if I'm being frank. And I didn't think I'd be scared of this game a few weeks ago. I actually put it down as a win, but I can't conceivably see us winning just because I've flip-flopped a little bit in the last couple of weeks. I'm more than happy to accept that. I didn't see the limp performance against the Bulldogs coming. I thought we'd show a lot more fight and endeavour because that's what I saw the week before against the Giants. I'm just hoping and I think just leaning into your point there that it can't, and I hope it doesn't happen 2 weeks in a row. And I don't think it really has happened 2 weeks in a row. Even after Alice Springs, King's birthday, we kicked 6-15. I think that was more about accuracy. I thought there were parts of our game in the second and third quarter where we actually stood up. We just didn't maximise it on the scoreboard.
Yep.
So I don't think we've actually, from an effort and application point of view, we've seen it for 2 weeks this season. So I'm just, my biggest hope on the weekend is we just don't fall into that trap of limping over the line and getting smacked again, because I just don't think that'll be good for us leading into 2025.
100% agree. I think you would look at the game that Port Adelaide are going to be bringing this week, home and away specialists. Look, this might be one of their last opportunities to play at the G. I'm not sure what their fixture looks like. It's going to be one of the last opportunities probably they're going to have, based on where they are on the ladder as well. They have some home finals, I think.
Yep.
It's going to be one of the last opportunities to play at the G before, if they get to the dance. So if they want to make an example, those guys are going to be absolutely up and about for this, and especially after last weekend. So even if the D's, even if our midfield, even if our guys the boys can kind of set up to a point where, they kind of sit on last week and they can go, look, we can't bring what we brought to the doggies. We know the level that we've got to bring. Even if they bring that, it's still going to be a hugely challenging game for us. Previously we looked at our best and we go, look, our midfield against anybody else, we've got this kind of covered kind of thing. Our guys against anybody else's guys, when we're covered, we're great. This week, even at our best, have we got them covered against their best? I'm not sure. Without going through a line by line there, I'm not 100% sure kind of thing. So the question's going to be it could be very ugly this weekend if we do not show up. Really ugly. But look, like all D supporters, we want a contest. We want it to be physical. We want to see the good brand of Ds. We want to see what 2025 give us a glimpse of potentially what that could look like. That's what I'm holding out for at the moment.
I'm the same, and we'll leave everyone on this, and we'll do our predictions and wrap up. Max Gawn, who I've been very open about in the last couple of weeks, I'm at the point where I don't want him playing footy.
Yeah.
I think we put him on ice. He's just too important. He's such a extremely vital asset in our armoury. I don't want him out there, but Max is proud. He's the skipper. He wants to lead by example. Caden McDonald spoke about that really well on the review show, I thought, where he wants to set an example for all the younger players in the team and how we perform and what the standards are. And I think he's right, and I understand that. And it's probably something that I wasn't thinking about. So I think that's why he's there. But fucking hell, we have to show something in these last 3 games. I want to hang my hat on a little bit more. I've seen enough, but I want to hang my hat on a little bit more. And the idea of going out there and putting up the best possible fight we can against a team that's in red-hot form, surely that stokes a bit of a fire in this group on the weekend. So what's my prediction? I'll start. I think it's in the areas that I spoke about before. I think we'll see a better version of Melbourne, because I think it is a proud football club, and I think that's how they've set it up ever since Paul Rose has come in, and the competitiveness that we've seen across the board. We don't typically get smacked, and we haven't been smacked a lot under Simon Goodwin, except this year we've had a few blowouts, which has been disappointing. I don't think we're going to get smacked this week, but I think Port will just have too much class, and maybe to be a 4 or 5 goal margin with Cozzy Pickett, who's been down the last couple of weeks, to spring back to life. So that's my prediction.
Yeah, you need a couple of those boys. Thomas Hammond, I'd really like to see him kind of, assert himself in that back space, in that back line there. You really want Sailor to kind of, start asserting himself, kind of coming off the half back there, a bit of run and carry if we can kind of get him there. Petting the forward line. We'll be sitting there watching him every single week. What have you got for us this week, Petty, kind of thing. And, hasn't been showing us. So you're kind of looking at those guys going, show us something for next year, boys. What have you got for us?
He's kicked 615 this year, Petty. 615. It is laughable.
But it's really tough to listen to, especially based on the previous, especially based on 23 as well.
Well, he kicked 6 in one game last year.
Oh, and was loving life. But, ever since he's come back. Anyway, that's what we're looking for, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's, we talk about a 4 or 5 goal margin, and I think we're all kind of in the same boat there. But I think the wins that we're looking for here are those individual pieces. It's like, how do we find some opportunities out of Sailor? How do we find some opportunities out of McVie there? How do we find Tomlinson, Petty, whoever it might be? How do we find a couple of guys who can find that next gear a little bit more, who can show the supporters that, hey, next year's 2025 is not going to be like 2024. We're showing, we are heading in that right direction. Goody, what have you got for us in terms of your method for next year, kind of thing? Like, can you show us anything there? How are you going to fire the boys up? And overall, a very young list that's on there at the moment. How are we going to fire those boys up to get them to kind of come to play? Because we bring what we brought against the Doggies. It's going to be an annihilation.
So we've got to get you in the rooms before the game. Give them a G up. Max did say we need to put some respect back into the jumper after last week. So I'm all for making big statements. I'm all for leaders of the football club coming out and saying things like that. But go out and execute and put it into practice. So I don't like it when... Well, we've seen it over the journey at different junctures when someone's come out and they've said something that's bold and out there. And I thought that was really interesting because for me, I think he's talking about what the next 3 weeks is and what that means. And ultimately, if you want to put respect back into the jumper, I come back to it all the time. I just want to see maximum effort. That's all I've ever asked as a supporter, and I think anyone that supports a football club and pays their hard-earned and goes to all the games and buys the official merch and whatnot, it's all we want. It's all anyone could ask for. So please, if you're going to come out and make those statements or put it back on the skipper, just preach it and then do it. I hope we show a hell of a lot on the weekend. We give Port a bit of a shake-up. A victory would be unbelievable.
Oh, we take a victory every day of the week, obviously.
Victories like this, where they're genuinely things that you can take into next season. We've seen it before with many other clubs that have finished just outside the 8, and you often hear the year after when they've bounced back and maybe they've done a bit of damage in the final, even gone on and won a premiership like we did in 2021. We spoke about 2020 a lot, the back end of 2020, and how we went 6-3 in the run home, just missed finals, while everyone else was laughing at us and saying we're a laughingstock because we finished in 9th. Melbourne internally, when they did their review, got into the off-season, spoke about all the different elements from that run and how they thought that if they could maximise parts of that DNA and that brand and that method, like, we would get better. And then you saw it... and the way it was reflected in the start of that next season. So my whole messaging is just around, you can always extract something from what seems like a dire situation at the moment. And there's a lot of people who don't give a shit. They're like, 3 games left, who cares? Like, even if we go and beat Port and, I don't know, we get done by the Suns and we go and beat Collingwood and we've won a couple of games in the last 3, like, who cares? Like, it doesn't mean anything. That's hogwash. It means everything. Every game and every situation that you're in, you've got an opportunity to get something out of it. So Max says those words in the aftermath, and it just resonated with me and my hope is that we just don't let it go by the wayside. Again, some people don't care, but I care. I want to see a little bit more.
I think the fact that Max is in kind of thing sends a big message to say, even to the younger guys on the team, hey, this isn't just, we're not just kind of, closing this out. Like, we're here, And if we're closing this out, there's a lot of guys who'd probably be, off for the season,
or Jefferson would have got a game.
Getting surgeries, getting cleaned up, and, we'd be playing more kids, You'd start seeing some kind of kids come out of the twos kind of thing. And the fact that Gawn's there, banged up, and he's playing Port, and he's going to get banged up there too. Like, they've always put work into him. It sends a big message to the kids on the club. So you kind of look at that and you go, God, that's got to fire up. That's got to fire up a whole lot of people. And the last thing your vets want to do is kind of thing in that space is turn around and go, well, if all the kids kind of coming through, they're all getting fired up. I've got to, I can't treat it that way either, in that sense. So, you just hope the boys kind of get that message loud and clear and go, look, the win might not be on the board, but what am I taking away for this game? What am I building towards? What am I showing the supporters? What am I showing the coaching staff kind of thing for next season? So.
What's your margin? You going Port?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be Port. So I wish I could. I wish I could say something else, but I'm not feeling that. Yeah, I reckon. Would you say 3 or 4?
I said 4 or 5.
4 or 5. Yeah. Look,
you're in similar areas.
Yeah, I reckon 6 or 7. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, faithful. Yeah.
Jerry.
I'd love it. I'd love it to be.
He
I'd
just-
love it to be closer. I would love it to be closer.
He just G'd me up. He got me excited. He got me excited to the point where I thought he was about to reverse Mosby and go, yeah, it's a famous victory, Adrian. And then you're like, yeah, 6 or 7. We're done. I was all in. I was like, fucking hell.
I wish I could. Oh, mate, I want to be. I want to be. But geez, last week, mate, was not pretty to watch.
No,
it was tough. It was very
admittedly,
tough.
last week has really knocked the stuffing out of me. I'm not going to lie. It's the first week in a long time where I haven't given it the Melbourne Football Club much thought. Sounds ridiculous, but they pop into my brain far too much, and it annoys the shit out of me. But this week has been a week of, that old thing that exists that I'm just so emotionally attached to, and it drains my life. But in other ways, it has given me some of the greatest memories of my life, so it's okay.
I feel like last week they just should have showed up a lot harder. Like that.
No, I know,
and
that's
it was just inexplicable. Like I just couldn't understand what had occurred to kind of change the mindset. But
well,
anyway.
I think you're spot on. Like, it was a 51-point loss that felt like a 80, 90 point, 100 point shellacking. That if it was a 51-point loss, but you knew that we had done everything humanly possible and we'd exerted ourselves and they looked like a spent force by the end of the game, you would have gone, oh well, that's just the difference. They're in a different.
They're on the way up. We're on the way down. That's the season. Like,
but it wasn't. It was the first quarter was horrific. The amount of broken tackles was just an absolute joke. So no one can sit there and tell me that the majority of players last week actually gave it a red hot crack, because I did my player ratings and I gave 6 or 7 players a pass. I think 2/3 of the team, something stupid like 14 or 15 players, maybe even more, I said didn't deserve a pass. I didn't think they had applied themselves to the level that's required. And that is shit house.
You just want effort. That's all from a supporter base. You sit on the sidelines, that's all you're looking for is effort, kind of thing. And you just don't feel like it's there at the moment. So for a couple of boys last week, and the player rating supported that. Supporters knew that at the start. Listened to all the commentary from the game. That supported that. There's probably a whole bunch of data on the back end there that probably supports it as well. On the back end of it, probably supports it as well. But I'll tell you what, from a supporter's point of view, we need to see a bit more. So
it was disappointing. Speaking of data, just to wrap up, if you want to chat to Wes about all your digital marketing needs, head to network NTWRK.com.au. Have a chat to him. You're a bright man. And I'm sure you can solve the problems of a lot of Melbourne supporters and their businesses. So, again, all the business owners, you can hit up the DeeBrief as well if you want, and I'll pass on the contact to you, Wes. But I just want to say to you, thank you for sponsoring the show this year.
No worries.
I talk about it quite a lot. We've got the subscription as well on this program, but without that money and all that hard earn that people put in like yourself, we don't have the ability to sit around a table and hang out and have a beer and talk about our beloved football club. So it means everything. And we also don't get to hang out with the weird and wonderful Derek from Castaway Studios. And that's always a privilege, Derek. So
proud St Kilda man.
Super proud St Kilda man. So thank you. You going to the game? Come on. You meant to say yes.
I am. Look, I need to get
Please
to.
say yes.
I'm definitely going to the Collingwood match, and
just say yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Even
Look, I'd like to get there, kind of thing. Yeah.
Get there.
Close out the season.
Get there and please get above 20k. Please get above 25k if you can, Melbourne. People are going to shit on us again. I get that feeling.
Yeah. I reckon there's a couple of Port fans will be coming across for this. They'll be up and about after last week. Oh, God.
They're going to fucking out-sing us.
They probably will, actually. No. Don't say that. No, I'm not saying that. So.
Nah, it's fine.
They're not saying that.
No,
So.
it's all good. Get there, support, be loud, go D's. And, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed it. Totally.
Yeah, thanks for your efforts, mate. We look, these kind of podcasts and bits and pieces are a big part of the Melbourne community. So I know a lot of the Melbourne faithful who tune in every week. Appreciate it, and I definitely enjoy it. My kids enjoy listening to it as well, and some of the shenanigans that go on. So nice. really appreciate it. All your time you give it as well. So
thank you. Well, I hope we're not teaching them bad habits, but that's all right. They probably get them from their old man anyway.
Definitely from me, mate.
Yeah, it's all good. All right. Well, we'll wrap it there, and then who am I doing the review show with? I actually have no idea. So many of the boys are checked out, so there will be a review show. Not entirely sure who the panelists will be, but we'll get stuck into that. Player ratings, and it's the fortnight for Robbo's rundown. So Russell Robertson, who's been amazing this season, his insights just as good as it gets. So we'll get Robbo on the line and we'll have a big chat about D's. And again, we'll just continue to have these cathartic, therapeutic podcasts that set us up for 2025 and get his thoughts about how we can bounce back next year. And yeah, we love him. He's a fan favourite. So we'll get that out to all the premium subscribers at some point over the weekend or on Monday. I'll leave it there. Let's get out of here. Thank you.
Nice work. Thank you.